Joining us now is Senator John Thune of South Dakota. He's the chairman of the Senate Republican Conference. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Allison.
Okay, you heard Mick Mulvaney there say the president's position on the Dreamers depends on what we get in exchange. Is that a position?
Well, I think what it represents is a negotiation, and what he's saying essentially is there should be symmetry in this negotiation. The president has indicated that he wants to solve the dock issue, so do most members of Congress, and we can get that done, but it does need to be coupled with border security measures so that we don't find ourselves in this position again in the future.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. It does represent a negotiation, but it's hard to negotiate with somebody when you don't know what their position is or what position they ultimately want. Do you know today how the president feels about legalization for Dreamers versus citizenship, what the conditions are, who gets to stay?
Well, I think part of that, obviously, I believe that the president wants a deal on the DACA issue. He's made that very clear.
Right, but what kind of deal?
Well, I mean, I think that's going to depend on the negotiation. But I think what he wants to see is what most of us want to see, and that is that they are protected. And, whether or not that includes a path to citizenship, some form of legalization, I think those are all issues that we can debate. But I think he wants to make sure that those young people who came here to this country through no fault of their own and are here illegally get protected status.
Yeah.
And in exchange for that, obviously, wants to see border security measures and other things put into place that would ensure that we protect against illegal immigration in the future.
Those are kind of big issues to have to tackle and solve over the next 16 days. I mean, what gives you faith that you're going to be able to solve in 16 days what hasn't been solved for the better part of 3 decades? Well,
I think obviously there's an intensity behind it now. We got this February 8th deadline, so I think these discussions are really going to intensify, and that's good. I mean, it'll bring some pressure to get us to a solution, get us to a result. I'm not sure that this is going to be able to solve all the issues surrounding immigration. And I think the question really is, as they enter into this, does this end up being a fairly narrow solution, or do other things get added in? And that's where I say I think there's going to have to be a balanced approach. And if there is as one side brings in an issue, I think the other side's probably going to bring in an issue that creates that sort of structure, that sort of balance. And so I'm hoping we can get a solution that obviously solves DACA, does some border security. What happens beyond that, I think, is a negotiation and remains to be seen.
Here's the problem with not knowing what the president's position is, as it was spelled out by Leader Mitch McConnell. Listen to this.
I'm looking for something that President Trump supports, and he's not yet indicated what measure he's willing to sign. As soon as we figure out what he is for, then I would be convinced that we were not just spinning our wheels.
Mitch McConnell doesn't know where to begin.
The leader is obviously prepared, as he said, to bring this issue to the floor. What he brings up as the base bill is yet to be determined, and I think that will happen as a result of consultation with the administration and, of course, with the House of Representatives. And the leaders, John Cornyn, Dick Durbin, Steny Hoyer, Kevin McCarthy in the House, the bicameral, bipartisan discussions that are ongoing, I think, are designed to try and achieve consensus and then be able to put something on the president's desk that he will sign into law. But the thing you have to remember, Allison, is it's not just something we can get through the Senate. We have to be able to get it through the House. And that's why I think it's really important that everybody have buy-in at the initial stages of these discussions.
Listen, this sounds like a catch-22, okay? Mitch McConnell can't put together something without knowing what the president wants, and the president isn't going to say what he wants until Mitch McConnell puts something together. I mean, Mitch McConnell says the president has not yet indicated what measure he's willing to sign. So what does that mean? Do you start with legalization? Do you start with citizenship? What?
No, I think that the leader does want, obviously, input from the White House. He wants to know what the president will sign into law. And now that these discussions will really get underway in earnest, I mean, I think right now with the deadline approaching, it will bring a new, as I said, intensity to these discussions that I hope, in these negotiations, that I hope will lead to a result. I mean, ultimately, we all know we have to solve this issue. It's one of many issues, frankly, that in addition to others, budget caps and some other things that we have to get done here in the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. And so this is a process. And I don't think we can probably ordain at the beginning of the process what it might look like at the end.
Is this the first order of business now that the government's reopened?
Is what?
Is the Fix for Dreamers the first order of business now?
Well, it is. Sure it is. And of course, coupled with, again, budget caps and a few other things that get into this, there are several things that are unresolved, one of which is the DACA issue. And I think that it will be teed up along with some other things in hopes that we can take a number of these issues off the table and then get to work on the other things that we need to do on the American people's agenda.
And from what you're hearing, is the latest thinking on Capitol Hill that you will find in the next 16 days a way for legalizing the dreamers who are here permanently?
I think that we will, and if we don't, that means that what the leader said is he's going to put a bill on the floor. And if the bill goes up on the floor of the United States Senate, obviously, and there's an amendment process, what likely happens is whatever can get 60 votes passes the Senate, but again, you don't have a guarantee that it passes the House. I think there's real value in having the discussions in advance between the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, that would get a consensus position or bill that we could put on the floor that would get a big bipartisan majority and also be able to pass the House and be signed into law by the President. That's what we're going to find out in the next few days. If that doesn't happen, then it ends up probably being more of an open free-for-all on the floor of the Senate. But
will we
again,
see more?
I want to get a result. I want to get a result, and I think most members of Congress do as well.
Yes or no? Will we see more threats of a shutdown in 16 days?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're open for business again. The shutdown was obviously, in my view, a big waste of time, but you know, we're at least back at the table, and that's where we need to be.
Senator John Thune, we appreciate you taking time to be on New Day. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Allison.